All right, Tony. We are live. It is two dudes and some bullshit.
And we got a lot of bullshit to talk about tonight.
Yes, we do. It is I was going to say Wednesday for some strange reason. It is Sunday, December the 2nd, 2018. I think Hanukkah has already started, hasn't it? I think it has. Has it? I think it has. Has it? It's early this year, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I have no idea.
I don't know. I'm already playing the song though by Adam Sandler. So.
Oh, are you? Oh, that's good. That's good. And
tunes.
Yes. This
holiday tunes. You know, I don't know what you categorize it now.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question. I don't know what the hell we would call it. But yeah, so episode 4. Listen, we want to talk about movie posters today and give you our thoughts on movie posters and our favorite movie posters, some of our favorite movie posters. But Tony brought it to my attention. Maybe some of you guys already know this. But Tony brought it to my attention, something that just fits right into my Dave McRae McRage wheelhouse. And I was completely unaware of this, that the the controversy going on right now.
I believe you're leading in with that word on this topic.
Well, it's the controversy with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And I have to get this off my chest. Tony, why don't you tell the fine folks out there in YouTube land what exactly you were telling me just before we went live here that we're leading off this episode with?
Yeah, earlier this week, a lot of people brought it to my attention as well too about this controversy over Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer being sexist, problematic, homophobic, bullying and all this stuff like that. And I read a few of the articles from different media sources, not just one particular, but from several, from HuffPost, Fox News, CNN, etc., so on and so forth. And I just sat there shaking my head that we have evolved in this world and society that we are becoming offended by a stop motion animated film that was made in 1964. And as I said to you before we went live, if you've got issues with that, you've got bigger issues in life that maybe you need to go resolve. That if a stop motion animated film that is about a fictitious Christmas character is homophobic, are you kidding me? Like, this is how far we're going to reach with it now, that you're going to, like, if I feel like everything you and I grew up with and what we had as kids is going to come back to us now as this was homophobic, this was problematic, this was racist, this was bullying. And I'm just like, oh my God, no, it's because back in the day we had a pair, we didn't get offended, we didn't care, you know what I mean? And we could laugh about stuff. Today, now it's like, you got to be careful what you say. If you don't say it like this, I was telling you this before we went live with regarding to the 2018 Halloween. You and I have never once said that film sucked. We've had our issues with the film, but we didn't say it sucked. I said it was in the top 5 of my favorite Halloween films, but I'm not telling people what they want to hear and coddling them and saying, I love it. So they automatically go into like offended mode. Like, oh my God, Dave and Tony hate that film. They think it sucks and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And it's just like, how did we get here, dude? I don't get it.
I do know what you mean. And for those of you that are just joining us, we are the main topic of the episode was supposed to be movie posters, and it will be. We will be talking about that. But Tony brought it to my attention
through an interception. I am watching the game, so if I'm distracted a little bit, I am watching this. I see the chat room blowing it up right now. I'm well aware of what's going on.
Okay, yeah. Well, Tony brought it to my attention that this Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer shit, and how there are people out there now accusing the original stop motion animated film of being, well, just go down the list. All the phobias, I'm sure, are on there. It's, homophobic, misogynistic, sexist, racist, whatever the thing is, right? But I'm reading this here and this is from popculture.com. Whether or not they're a reliable source, I have no idea. But it's generally the same thing across all of the platforms. And this is what they say here. They say, one of the main criticisms of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is the bullying aspect that Rudolph faces. He's relentlessly teased by his peers and his family and Santa Claus until he is forced to flee into the wilderness. And while he finds new friends that accept him as he is not accepted by his original community until his glowing nose becomes useful. And I find this so incredibly fucking ridiculous because I sit back and I think it's missing the whole fucking point.
Ooh, Dave, are you saying the F word?
Yeah, I am. It's a fucking cartoon. And you know what it's about? It's about redemption. It's about, yes, at first, that's the whole point of the story. The friggin' reindeer is ousted because he's different, right? And that's not nice, right? But does it happen in this world? It happens. And you know what? It's going to continue to happen. Okay? We are fucking primates. All right? We're not going to live in a kumbaya fucking world where everybody is created equal and nothing bad ever happens. It's going to happen. Doesn't make it right. I don't mean you shouldn't be, you know, not nice to people and things like that, but these kinds of things happen, okay? It's part of biology. We're animalistic that way, even on an unconscious level. So what ends up happening is that you have a story here about this poor little reindeer, right? Oh, the poor little reindeer, you know, the poor little thing, and he's, you know, ousted. Is that right? Well, of course it's not right, but that's the moral of the story. Because what ends up happening at the end of the story, they realize that, you know what, it's okay to be different. Right. It's okay to be different. And they realize that, you know what, what's different about you really helped us. That really helped us. Wow, we didn't think we were going to be able to deliver all these presents to all these children all over the world, and you came through. And what we thought was so kind of weird and crazy is actually like, you know what? You're special. Fuck off with this goddamn that's the whole. He's supposed to be bullied. That's part of the story. He's not just bullied for the hell of it. It's part of the story. It's a redemption story. You sacks of shit. Grow the fuck up. This bullshit thing about this, it's so goddamn irritating. You know, Rudolph the Red-Nosed. Well, I don't like to get bullied by reindeer. No, you poor little thing. Just so fucking ridiculous. Jesus Christ. Just, it's infuriating to me. I sit back and I read this and I go, seriously? Like, grow up. Okay, grow the hell. It's part of this. Well, then don't ever sing the song. Don't ever fucking ban the goddamn song. You want to know why? Because the lyrics in the song are all about that. They're all about being teased and then redemption. So don't ever sing. Ban the song. Ban it. Oh, don't ever, Billy. Don't sing the song, Billy. Don't sing the song. I want to call.
Well, they're banning.
Don't ever get dirty, Billy. Don't ever get dirty. I have to keep you in a bubble.
Well, they're banning, from my understanding. Now, I heard about the radio station in Ohio. Someone mentioned in the chat room New York, and I don't know how confirmed that is, but I do know the station in Ohio is banning Baby It's Cold Outside, the Christmas tune. You know, that was infamously Sinatra. I forgot who did Sinatra. Someone in the chat room bring that up, but Sinatra duetted that song with back in the day when it first came out. And I just was like, oh my God. So like that song now, in the innuendos and the sexual innuendos that the man is implying in the song, that's what they're interpreting it as. So now they're going to ban Baby It's Cold Outside from being played on the radio in the Ohio on Ohio radio stations. And I'm just like, here we go. Like, we are evolving slowly. Now, whether this happens in my lifetime or your lifetime, because we're the same age, we are evolving slowly to a Demolition Man type society where you're going to get, you know, credits, you know, whatever, for saying swears and saying things wrong. Like, people really, that's what they want. That's the type of world they want to live in, that everything is so politically correct, that everybody's walking around basically being fake to one another in this fake politeness. And I won't be shocked if you and I reach the ages of 80 and 90, that is where this world eventually evolves into, that you're not going to have free speech. It's going to be free speech, but free speech only the kind that we want to hear type speech.
Well, look, I mean, you know, I don't like to get political on my channel, and I tend to, you know, steer away from that. I get what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, but I will go after certain things that don't make logical sense to me when we're talking about the moral of the story.
Right?
Because if you have an issue with Rudolph being bullied because he's different and nobody accepted him until they found out that they needed his nose. Well, yes, of course, because that's the moral of the story. It's that it's okay to be different.
Exactly.
And they recognize that he actually was incredibly valuable. What made him different was valuable, right? And of course, I go off on a tangent. I yell and scream, and hopefully people understand that that's part of who I am, and why I can sometimes be entertaining. But it is irritating because I think there are far more important. I'm all for trying to send that kind of a message to children, and I'm not saying it's okay to bully. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
I'm saying, but you have to pick and choose where to put that energy and where to actually take that and utilize that energy. And in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, because you can't pick and choose. You can't just say, well, this bothers me, so I'm going to. Well, no. Then you have to ban and not ban, but then you have to take issue with every single story that's like that. Like, you can't just pick and choose because you happen to find something off-putting about that on that particular moment or that particular day. You have to say, well, what is the crux of the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Well, right. He's born into this thing. He's different. Everybody makes fun of him. Santa's even, whoa, hang on a sec here. I don't know if I can do this, right? He feels so bad about himself. He flees. He learns to gain confidence. He learns to, kind of be okay with himself. And then he goes back home. They see the value in that because they can't, deliver the gifts and blah, blah, blah. They say, oh my God, it's okay. It's actually a nice story. And sometimes in nice stories with morals, you have to have adversity. You have to have things that aren't nice in order to be able to have the moral of the story. You can't win without losing. You can't have good without bad. You can't you have to be able to tell that side of the story. It's the reality. So somebody taking issue with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that part of the story, is just ridiculous, because
now
you have to take issue with all other stories that are like that.
Well, they now want, instead of it being referred to as Frosty the Snowman, they want it to be referred to as Frosty the Snow Person.
Right.
That's what they're trying to go after now. I mean, they're literally trying to make
there's far more important things to.
Yeah, you would think that there are far more important things to worry about in life than worrying about, do you call Frosty the Snowman, or the Snow Person, or worrying about if Rudolph was sexist or homophobic. Like, what the hell? I never thought I'd be having conversations like this as an adult that were, as part of a political forefront of, and of course, they, at some point they'll blame it on, and look, and every president is blamed for everything. So, I mean, Trump being blamed for stuff is nothing new, because Obama was blamed for everything. Bush was blamed. That, if you're the president of the United States, you're going to be blamed for if it's snowing outside. I mean, that just comes with the territory. So there's no win there. But I just, to try to, bring even Trump into the equation with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeers. And I saw a few that with CNN articles this week. I was just like, wow, like we're looking for everything, and to not only look for everything to bring Trump into the equation, but then to also ruin shit for people. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Like, it's like, why do we have to go there? Like, I don't know the kind of world and culture that these people want, but I certainly would not want to live in that world.
Right. Well, again, like I said, I mean, I don't get involved in that side of it. I only take issue with when it's very clearly missing the objective and the point. Right. And this Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer thing is look, I mean, if somebody wants to bring evidence to me to say, well, this is a big example of racism in this cartoon. And now I don't mean a depiction, like maybe they have Native Americans in there and whatever the case is. I'm talking about an actual example of racism. Well, that's fine. I'd be able to, but yes, please do. And, we'll talk about that and whatnot. But to say that you have an issue with the bullying in Rudolph, but that's part of the story. It's part of it. He has to be, if he's not bullied, there is no Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Right. If he's not bullied, there is no song. That's the whole point. Well, like you just said, you can't just single out Rudolph. You got to go after like A Christmas Story. The kid who wants the BB gun. I mean, there's bullying in there. Right.
You know, the two
Sure
bullies
is.
of the I mean, yes, and there's a redemption part where the kid with the glasses beats up the bullies. But
Right.
I mean, if you're gonna attack one, like you said, you got to go after all of them. You can't just single out one specific. But I hate it. I hate that this is what we've evolved to. That, you know, like I just said a few moments ago, that we're actually sitting here having a conversation that this has really become, that people are making this thing an issue. Like, I can't believe that this is where we've evolved to.
It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. Okay, so let's
Can we
move
go on to
here.
happier news and talk about Mr. Carpenter really quick
Yeah,
before we go on to posters?
for sure. Let's so recently it was announced, not announced. John Carpenter was had said that he is, yeah, he said, sure, I'd be more than happy to do the music for, you know, a sequel to Halloween 2018. And everybody's sort of losing their minds over this. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you know, what do you think? Well, I mean, okay, well, A, John Carpenter is always up for a paycheck. B, he has really no interest in writing or directing anymore. I mean, maybe he might do something small. Maybe Blumhouse could convince him to come out of the woodwork and do some sort of, you know, smaller, low budget.
It would
film
have
that
to be
wouldn't take
kind
a lot
of
his time.
it'd have to be an independent film that he would want, something that
Well, that's
an
what I mean.
original,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that's entirely possible. But for the most part, he's 70 years old now, give or take, and he wants to focus on music and doing his thing and watching his NBA and playing his Xbox, or like, you know, whatever it is that he does. So when he obviously had a very good time, and Halloween 2018 was very lucrative in terms of the box office receipts. So he probably, I don't know what his deal was, what his contract was, whether or not he had a back end deal for some of the percentage of the profits. I have no idea, but certainly he was handsomely paid, and he had a good time, and it was really chill and relaxed because he did it from his own home or whatever the case was, and he had a good time. So is it surprising that he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it? No. I mean, the soundtrack to Halloween 2018 is, you could make an argument that it's the best part of the movie, and it is. It's vintage Carpenter. You have to give credit to his son Cody Carpenter and Daniel Davies as well. This was a collaborative effort. Okay, we can't speak about the soundtrack to 2018 without acknowledging them as well, because they were a huge part of it. And but definitely it has that 80s synth, that, you know, that vibe that we know and love. My issue with the music, and it's not really an issue with the music in and of itself, is that, of course, it's always exciting when you hear that John Carpenter is going to score your movie or is interested in doing it. My issue comes down to that the soundtrack to Halloween 2018 is very strong, but it's very disconnected emotionally, in my opinion, from the movie. And what I mean by that is that unless I'm looking at the track, or I've watched the movie, you know, 9 times in the theater, and I'm able to actually know, I mean, read between the lines here. Okay. This is generally speaking, when I listen to the music, unless I'm looking at the track, I have no idea what scene it belongs to. I mean, I can take a guess. Oh, I remember that was kind of playing during that, or unless it's the Shape Stocks Allison, which is arguably the strongest track. You remember that. But a lot of the scenes in Halloween 2018 didn't, the music tracks are very, the scenes didn't play out long enough for the music to have its own identity. Right. And you don't get that with the original film from 1978. Like, for example, the Shape Stalks Allison, the Shape Chases Allison, whatever it is a very strong track, but it's very short. And it's one of the things where it's like, just as it gets going, it stops. And we know the scene that it plays against, and how wonderful would it have been if that scene had been longer. Sure. And they had built more suspense around that scene, as I talked about. And then you give the track some more breathing room to help create more of its own identity. It's all strong stuff. The entire soundtrack is very strong. One of my favorite tracks actually is one that a lot of people don't even talk about, is the one where Laurie goes to the sanitarium to watch his release. Yeah. And you get the sort of the voiceover from Dr. Loomis and all, all that kind of stuff. And that's a great track. It's a great moment in the movie, actually. So that's memorable, because the scene, they take their time with it. It's well paced. There is a bit of an emotional connection because it's an emotional scene. But a lot of the tracks I don't feel are hooked into the movie. So when people say, well, this is really exciting that he's coming back, yes, but you have to remember that the music isn't created until the movie is shot. So they're creating the music to what they're seeing. So if what we're seeing is, then Carpenter's music might be really strong for you while you're listening to it on your CD in your car or on iTunes on your iPod or what, iPod, I don't know. Do people still have iPods? Whatever the case is, I guess their phone now, essentially. But I like it, and that's great. That's really cool. But I like the scenes to be strong, so strong that the music complements it, because the music track is so strong that it becomes almost one. Like when you think of Laurie's theme from 1978, instantly it's like, oh, it comes because of how they're played out, how they're, drawn out, the pacing, the timing of it. These scenes were very, like, I'd listen to the track and I'm like, it's a great track, but I have no idea what part in the movie this is from. So yes, it's a positive thing. Carpenter being involved from a music perspective is positive, but it really all comes down to what we're seeing on screen and whether or not it's going to, complement it. Because a lot of people have said, I love the music, but when I heard the soundtrack, I almost forgot, did I hear any of that in the movie? Like there's certain things that I remember hearing, like the opening or, whatever it is, but there's a lot of tracks on there that a lot of people don't even remember hearing because they're sort of in there under everything that's going on. Anyway, how do you see it, Tony?
A lot of people were messaging me on Instagram, and pardon me for just a moment. The football game is winding down, and my uncle is a Vikings fan, and the Patriots beat the Vikings. So I'm sending my uncle a lovely text message that Tom Brady sends his regards. But as far as the soundtrack goes in the news, people were saying that this is guaranteeing now that there's a sequel. Look, you didn't even need to see this on the news or the other day that Carpenter would be doing the follow-up soundtrack to the 2018 film. The movie made a buttload of money. You already knew that there was going to be a sequel. Now my hope is that in that, because I haven't really talked about, do I want a sequel? What my opinion would be if there would be a sequel. All I care about is if they take their time and don't worry about doing so much of a tribute like they did in the last film with all the, the winks and nods that they did, and focus on maybe an original story and giving us an original story, and don't rush it to production like you did with Halloween 5. Halloween 4 came out with such a huge bang in 1988 and they came back with it with shit. That's what ruins Halloween 4. Besides the mask, we've talked about that in the past, that had they altered the mask and got more online with the Shatner mask of 78, that again changes the dynamics of 4. But the follow-up film to Halloween 4, which is Halloween 5, is a total freaking shit show. So my only focus right now, as from a fan perspective, would be just get the right story, don't rush it to production. And yeah, I think it's great. And I agree with you. I mean, if depending on the hour of the day, I've mentioned this several times, I'm either listening to the Halloween soundtrack from 2018, or I'm listening to the original 1978 vinyl pressing that I have here, and it's back and forth, and Halloween 4 as well too. And those are my 3 favorite Halloween soundtracks. And I thought what Carpenter did on this film, and we were talking about this off camera, was that at times I felt like what I'm listening to wasn't, like you said, wasn't quite matching up with the scene. I just felt like what Carpenter's score was so powerful that the scene kind of underperformed at times. That doesn't make it the movie that's bad. It doesn't mean it's bad at all. It just, the scene is underperforming itself. It's hard to explain, like what Dave was explaining here. Anytime you do a film production, and I do it on my end for commercial shoots, you always add in the music afterwards. You have no idea how the music's going to play out while you're filming it. They're not sitting there on set playing a soundtrack on a boombox and going, okay, guys, this is what it's supposed to sound like. And you got someone out there like John Cusack with a fucking boombox over their head. You know what I mean? So it's not done that way. See, we have no idea. They don't do that until post-production. And I just felt like, you know, Carpenter hit such a home run with that soundtrack, which I agree with what you said there, that really is the best part of the film. I can't praise the soundtrack, you know, enough. Like I said, depending on the hour of the day, it could be my favorite for that hour. And then, you know, next thing you know, it's back to the original 78 film. But I mean, yeah, it's exciting. I think it's great news, you know. I mean, yeah, I mean,
great.
you know,
It's great news, but you know, people have to temper their expectations. I mean, it doesn't mean that this whatever they do in a sequel, it's going to be good. It just means, well, that's nice. So, you know, the music will, you know, will probably be good because John Carpenter has a history. We can look at his history and we can say, yeah, he has a history of delivering when it comes to music. So that's important. But you know, if the movie is subpar and the soundtrack's good, well, who cares? You know, at the end of the day, well, but it's a good soundtrack. Well, yeah, okay, it's a good soundtrack. But at the end of the day, I'd rather have a soundtrack. I would rather have a soundtrack that's, I don't want one, but I would rather have a soundtrack that blends into the movie and the movie's great than a movie that's garbage, but an amazing soundtrack that's emotionally disconnected from the film.
exactly.
So it's good. It's positive, but okay, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's okay. Great. Next.
Next. Well, actually, in line with the soundtrack, someone, I sent this to you in a text message. Someone had asked me with regards to, I guess they had re-released Halloween 4 and Halloween 5 on a vinyl box set. And I had to do a quick Google search to look it up. And it was neat looking, you know, it had some neat graphic arts on it. And someone asked me, would I buy it? Now, it all depends. There is no right or wrong answer, but I will say this. Dave, you've talked about this on previous videos. When it comes to this soundtrack, the 1978 vinyl that I have here, this is what you are going to hear in the movie. This is that when you talked about the theme and the difference and the extra kick drum and whatnot versus to the re-release digital, that's not on here. You don't get the re-release digital of like what you get off of iTunes, Spotify, or what you're buying on CD. What you hear from the original release of the 1978 film is what you're going to get on here. The same thing with Halloween 4 and 5. Being a diehard vinyl collector, if it were up to me, I would get the original 4 and the original Halloween 5 on soundtrack, only because what you're going to get today, like on the 2018 soundtrack up there on vinyl, it's great. It's the look of vinyl, but it's digital recording. It's not analog. They don't do analog recordings anymore. And I'm a particular with that. I've been collecting vinyl records since back in the 80s. So if I had to pick and choose between purchasing a $60 box set of Halloween 4 and 5 on vinyl, you can go with that, but chances are you're going to get a digital re-recording of it that was pressed on 180 grams, which is just basically the weight of a vinyl record. And that's it. So it really is up to you. If you're serious and you're someone who's really particular about their sound and you want that crisp analog sound, then I would spend the I spent about $150 when I got this several years ago. This you're probably going to spend close to $500, but I would say that would be more in line for the diehard vinyl collectors. If you're someone who doesn't care and you just want to start collecting vinyl records, yeah, go spend the $60. But understand, you are going to get that digital sound. You're not going to get the analog sound, because there is a difference when I'm playing this soundtrack versus this soundtrack. There is an output difference on my turntable, and you hear it.
Right.
So,
right.
And you've talked about that with the original soundtrack.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I don't have any of them on vinyl, but I do have them all on CD. But now are the originals there you have, are they in mono?
Yeah.
That's great.
These are all like this is in mono, 1978. This is and even I didn't show this one. Get over here. Oops. Same thing with that. So this is like what you would have gotten back in 1981 when it first came out. Same thing with this back in 1978. You know, of course, again, you and I come from an era, excuse me for a minute while I pick up my records. You and I come from an era where you could walk into any mall and purchase vinyl records and buy, you know, VHS tapes, you know, and when I first saw Halloween 4, that was literally what I did. I made a beeline to Suncoast, and which Suncoast was connected to. Oh, Sam Goody. That was the name of. We had Suncoast Video, and Sam Goody was the record store in our mall. And I made a beeline right to there. I was like, I want the Halloween 4 soundtrack on vinyl. And then I also bought the Halloween soundtrack on vinyl at the same time as well, too, from there. So, yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah. So let's get to the main thing we were going to talk about today. Before I had my rant and vent at the beginning of the episode. For those that are just joining us and have no idea what I'm talking about, you'll have to go back to the beginning and watch. But jeez. Anyway, so movie posters. So movie posters have come a long way. And, you know, back in the 20s, when they sort of started doing movie posters, a lot of it was hand drawn. It was all illustrations, and they weren't that flashy. You know, by the 1940s, of course, they were using big font and big text. And by the 60s, the big font and big text had sort of had calmed down a little bit on the posters, and they were sort of there were like narratives, scenes that were sort of playing out on some of the posters. And it's neat to see the progression when you look at the movie poster. And, you know, from the 1920s to the 30s to the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And we've sort of hit a plateau. Movie posters have sort of found, I guess, what you could say is their rhythm, and they're pretty generic a lot of the times. It doesn't mean that they're not beautiful or that some aren't really good. But if you look at a movie poster and how it often looks symmetrically in terms of the art, the title will often be placed in the same spot. You know, the faces, if you're going to have a couple of faces on the posters, they're often in the same spot. You know, if you're going to have, the names of the people, they're often in the same spot. Like there's an overused cliche where if you have, you know, I just saw it on the Glass poster, right? Where you have Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, and what's the other guy's name? The guy from
X-Men.
The guy from Split.
X-Men. Professor X, the new Professor X. James McAvoy.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have their three faces on the poster, right? And, you know, naturally, like, it's just such an overused and I get it, you know, but it's like, ooh, we're being edgy, you know. So you have Bruce Willis's face, but Bruce Willis's name isn't above his face. It's Samuel L. Jackson. And then under Samuel L. Jackson's, you know, or above, you know, Samuel L. Jackson's face, it's Bruce Willis. And then under, you know, McAvoy's face, it's like Samuel L. Jackson, or whatever it is. Or, you know, and I look at that and I go, I see it used a lot. I'm like, it feels so like, oh, we're being edgy. We're going to put their three faces on the poster, but we're not going to put the corresponding name above their face. No, we're going to like change it up a little bit. Isn't that edgy? Like, no, it's just an overused cliche that's just dumb. You know what I mean? And yeah, but like you look at a lot of modern movie posters over the last 20 years or so, especially when you get into the 90s, like look at the horror posters, right? When you look at Halloween H2O, or you look at Halloween Resurrection, you look at I Know What You Did Last Summer, right? You look at the Scream films, and there was this rhythm, this thing they got into about, okay, well, we'll have a couple of the faces of our characters all on the side, right? And then we'll have like the title here, and then it just seems like, you know, and I'm not saying there aren't good posters today. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that there aren't some classic ones. But here's an example I was talking with Tony about. Okay. There's
real quickly, let me ask you, growing up as a kid, before you go into that, what was your favorite? I had two of mine that I was thinking about this over the last few days as we were preparing for this. One, I'm sure most guys who are our age had this up. I had, you know, the classic Crow, Brandon Lee's The Crow poster. It's a silhouette shot. It's the movie, wherever my movie's up there. Hold on. This classic poster of Brandon Lee's The Crow, I had that hanging on my wall, and I had this, Back to the Future. Those were my two favorite posters hanging up in my room as a kid. I mean, like I told you the other day, I went through posters like I was going through bubble gum, you know. I mean, it just was like cycling through. But those two I distinctively remember, along with my favorite, you know, rock bands and sports, you know, heroes and whatnot. What about you? Do you have any posters that you remember as a kid that you like were your favorites?
I just want to talk to somebody in the chat here saying the reason why the names aren't put above the actual actors' faces is that some companies have rules with certain movies, like name of actor, blah blah blah, has to be placed on the right and so on. I think what this individual is talking about you know, putting in who gets top billing. Okay, so
Right.
yes, it's entirely possible that certain positions, certain actors' names will be placed in a certain order. Okay, depending on who gets top billing. That's very true. But what I'm talking about is that's not what I'm talking about. And unless you can send me a link in the chat to some companies, I don't even know what that means. Some companies have rules about placing names above certain actors because they have to be on the right. I don't even know what that means. So you'll have to like, you know, are you saying that Bruce Willis's name always has to be on the right? Well, you're talking about his name always has to come first. So there could be a contractual obligation about having Bruce Willis's name has to come first. Well, then then why not put his face under his name?
Right.
Is there a rule that we can't put his face under the name? No, of course there isn't. You know, that just could be the artist's design, right? In terms of what it is. So but I can tell you, I'm telling you, because I know people who create movie posters and they've told me that, yeah, this is a creative choice that some of us do where we will put the person's name not above their face.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And then the name that's above my face, my name will be above their face, or it's this aesthetic sort of thing, right? Not in all cases, because sometimes top billing can be an issue, right? If you have a movie starring Harrison Ford and me, well, Harrison Ford's name is going to come first. It's not going to be Dave McRae and Harrison Ford. It's going to be Harrison Ford and Dave McRae. So therefore his name would be on the left, you know, and that makes sense. But then you don't have to put my face under his name. You could put his name under his face under his name. So there's many variables at play. Okay. There's a lot of things that do happen. But you have to keep that in mind that
Right.
top billing can be an issue. I remember that was happening back in the mid 90s with the Devil's Own with Brad Pitt and Harrison Ford. They struggled so much to figure out who's going to get top billing in that movie because Brad Pitt was just coming into his own. He had just done Seven. He did that thing in Thelma and Louise, and you know he was becoming sort of this star, this young hunk star, and then you have like this young hunk meets this, you know, older hunk, right? You know what I mean? But Harrison Ford was still very much at the top of his game in 1997 when that movie came out, or 98 or whatever it was. And I remember there was a thing about, well, is it The Devil's Own starring Brad Pitt and Harrison Ford, or is it Harrison Ford and Brad Pitt? I think Brad Pitt ended up getting top billing because Harrison Ford probably didn't give a shit. But I stand to be corrected, but I think he might have. So
Sure.
But how, if you look at my overall point, and I'll get to your answer here in a second, is that if you look at a lot of movie posters today, they will have symmetrically in terms of the art on the poster. Doesn't mean some aren't beautiful and they're not different, but they will always have the same sort of vibe to them. Faces will be in similar positions and spots. You know, You'll get this a lot. You know, you'll get that a lot. You know, but they're not looking at you; they're looking over here. So it's
right.
You know, you'll get that a lot, right? You'll get and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Hey, it's good shit. And you know, apple pie is hey, it's plain old apple pie, but it's good shit.
Right.
But I miss the older days where there was a lot more creativity, so it seemed, with certain adventure films or action films or even horror films and things like that. But to answer your question,
now to define my question, just so that we're clear in the chat room as well too, and as far as favorite movie posters, okay, what I'm referring to is like what you have hanging up behind you as a poster, the Halloween poster, or like what's hanging up behind me, the Audrey Hepburn, size wise, that's a poster. Now the JFK one next to Audrey Hepburn, I had a lot of those hanging. Like I had an ET one like that, I had a Karate Kid one like that, which back in the day, you know, of course, I wasn't thinking. I was thumbtacking that shit to my wall. But
I was scotch taping it.
Right, scotch tape and whatnot. You know, But I didn't really categorize those as posters because it's not the full size like the Hepburn behind me or like the Halloween one behind you. So I'm just defining what I'm calling as a movie poster. And I had a poster like of Back to the Future and of The Crow and a couple others, you know, as a kid growing up. But I did have smaller ones. But I don't really count those as posters. Do you?
No. I
Yeah.
mean, they're posters,
Posters,
you know,
yeah.
but they're, yeah, no. No, when I was a kid, I had the two of the original three Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
So I had the Temple of Doom, which is my favorite Indiana Jones movie, and I had The Last Crusade, which, funny enough, is my least favorite. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just out of the original three, it's the one I watched the least. And those were the two that I had. I didn't have the posters I have now out beyond that door, Halloween, Friday the 13th, Elm Street, the original Star Wars, until probably about 6 or 7 years ago. So those were the two that I had. Yeah. And, I also had a couple of course, I wasn't a kid. I mean, I was in my 20s. I did have like a second version of Attack of the Clones.
Okay, yeah.
And I had a Revenge of the Sith one as well.
I don't know what happened to it. It might have, you know, in my move from Connecticut to Atlanta, in my 20s, I had the classic, you know, Brando sitting on the chair Godfather poster.
Oh, that's great.
You know, that was probably one of my all-time favorite just photographs. And like you're talking about, like, you know, we were talking about this the other day where they, you know, movie posters today, they tend to pick scenes from movies to use as their posters, but it seems like they're not picking scenes that are like iconic scenes, like The Godfather, you know, for example, that scene with Brando sitting in, you know, his office there in the house in the first Godfather. It's so iconic. Or, you know, even something simple as like John Cusack in Say Anything when he's holding the freaking boombox over his head, you know, and that became the poster for Say Anything. You know, so it's like for today, you know, when they do take scenes from movies to use as their posters, like even for example, the 2018 Halloween. Now, down at our movie theater here, we didn't have that as our main picture. We had what the hell was it? It was the
the one with Michael and Laurie.
Yeah, we had the one with Michael and Laurie. That was our poster at our theater. And I've noticed that from theater to theater to you know, town to town, it was different. Which poster you were going to get, you know. So
well, I think what's so disappointing now is I'm and obviously it's because of my age, but I'm a big fan of the paintings and drawings of certain posters, and I know that can be very time consuming. And nowadays, of course, it makes sense from a technological perspective. I mean, Photoshop now is at the look way back in the day. Photoshop has been around for decades, okay, but it's only just in the last 20 years or so.
We were using Photoshop in high school.
Yeah,
a baby version of it.
Right. That it's but it was even like it was being used even prior to that.
Sure.
But what ended up, so I understand from a cost perspective, yeah, it's a hell of a lot easier to digitally do everything, you know, and now you can digitally create, you can animate and Photoshop and stuff, which is what they do. But I miss the charm and the aesthetic of posters like, you know, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I'm talking about the original Raiders of the Lost Ark poster, or the original Star Wars trilogy, and the Goonies, and you know,
Goonies, E.T., Back to the Future.
It seems like now, and the example that I used with Tony the other day was, there's a movie from 2013 that I like, and I know a lot of people may not here because a lot of people don't like her, but I think she's funny. The Heat, starring Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy. And I think it's a funny movie. And the poster for that movie is, I didn't get rid of it. I just want to bring it up here. Oh, sorry, I got a lot of things going on here. The poster for that movie, wow, I didn't realize I had all those windows open. Let me see here. Okay. the poster, I think there was a couple of posters, but the poster for that movie that is commonly displayed and that a lot of people even that is on the cover of the DVD I bought is this poster right here. Okay.
Yep.
And that's what it is. So that's what people, when you went to the movie theater, you'd see something like that. When you bought the DVD or Blu-ray, you get some variation of that. Maybe there was something else that was a bit different. But what's funny is that if you go to IMDb, if you go to the Heat's IMDb page, their poster, which was not on the DVD or the Blu-ray. I didn't even see it in the theater. I've never seen it before, nowhere else other than IMDb. Maybe somebody in the chat room has. Is this right here? This is the IMDb poster. Check out that.
Which is like a cool 80s throwback poster. Why they didn't go with that, I don't know.
Why they did, like, it speaks, 1980s. There's this adventure. There's a lot of, it's very busy. A lot of people don't like busy posters. I like busy posters if it suits the content and narrative of the movie. If it's a drama, well, I don't want a poster that looks like that. But
Sure.
but if it's supposed to be some high octane adventure movie or action film, you don't have to do that at all. There's a lot of adventure films or action movies that have simple posters. It's fine. Die Hard 1, right? But it's always fun when I remember being a kid and seeing posters like this, and it's great marketing. Like, it looks fun and it looks adventure, and there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of action and commotion and busy, and wow, this looks like an adventure. Whoa. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of whether the movie ends up being really good or not, I don't know. But I like the movie, but it's got that 1980s sort of vibe to it. But nowhere have I ever seen this anywhere else other than IMDb. Now, maybe this isn't an official poster. Maybe this could be a fan poster, perhaps. Maybe. I mean, God knows now. You can upload. I mean, anybody could upload anything to IMDb. Ladies and gentlemen, is the last place that you should look for reliable information. You take everything that you read about on IMDb or see on IMDb with a grain of salt. That doesn't mean what you're reading or seeing is not true, but for the longest time, there was a fan-made poster up on Halloween 2018. Everybody was losing their shit thinking it was the real one, and it wasn't. So just keep that in mind. I can go and upload something right now to some film. Anyway, yeah, so I just wanted to show that example where there are other movies that you will see nowadays that do have that, that will have that kind of a thing, but it's almost like a special edition. Oh, we're releasing a special edition poster, or here's our 9th release of this movie on Blu-ray, and then you get something. But it never felt, but it's not official. Right. And I always think it's cool when that's the official poster, like the Back to the Future poster. Like, that's whenever you buy the DVD, the Blu-ray, that's what you see. It's not some 80th anniversary, some obscure thing that winds up on the shelf for, a couple of weeks that you just so happen to get, which I understand can be cool to some collectors going, wow, me and only, 100 people have this. But I just miss that sense of, and again, I'm a bit biased because I'm coming at this from the perspective of when I was a kid and I would go into the old school video stores or into a convenience store and see these, boxes, these VHS and beta, and VHS boxes, and be so taken back by it, and the art, and nowadays movie posters tend to be quite formulaic and standard. If you look at modern day posters, generally speaking, ladies and gentlemen in the chat room, that doesn't mean you can't find differences, or there are no differences, or there are posters that are different. But generally speaking, you could just get a bunch together that look very similar. And sometimes, that's, you can do that with a lot of things in the past as well. But I miss that sense of excitement when I would look at a poster.
Sure. No, I absolutely agree with you on that. In fact, there are rare occasions where I will say, and I'm pulling one up right now to show you guys, where the fan art poster outperforms or is better than the actual movie poster. And in this case, I was showing this to Dave the other day. I actually commissioned someone. Let me just zoom in on that bad boy so you guys can see it here. This is a fan art poster, but it's like a movie poster because it's got, it's got all the, actors starring in it, Warner Brothers Presents and all this stuff. But I thought that the artist did such a cool job. And let me just share the screen here so you guys can see it and what I'm talking about. Boom. That's it's a fan art poster of The Exorcist. And if you look very closely at Linda Blair's face, you can see the demon that was in The Exorcist, or pops up in The Exorcist throughout the movie. You can see that face with inside, like almost kind of a double exposure of the two faces. And when I saw this picture, I was like, God, this is really cool. Because it's not overkill, like what you were just talking about, because I think there's a right moment and then there's a wrong moment to put too much in a picture. Now, certainly I could have gone with the iconic classic, Exorcist of the, priest standing in front, silhouetted, walking into the house. But when I saw this, I was like, damn, this is really cool. Now, the place that I bought it from didn't have the size because I had a specific frame that I wanted. So I actually contacted the artist. And this is one of those rare occasions where I spent an extra $50 and commissioned the artist to make me a specific size because I had a specific framing size that I wanted for this. Now, this is obviously, it's not the movie poster of what you saw with The Exorcist when it came out. But this is one of those rare occasions where I thought a fan art actually, I thought was a little bit better than the actual, and I take nothing away from the iconic original Exorcist, poster, but this I thought was well done in its simplicity of the art.
Yeah, it looks great. Like, I mean, it's a great, simple poster, and it looks fantastic. One thing I just wanted to quickly say, somebody in the chat room said, did I notice the names on the poster that I just brought up of The Heat? Because over Melissa McCarthy, you had Sandra Bullock's name, and over Sandra Bullock, you had Melissa McCarthy's name. That was probably more of an issue of top billing. Okay, in a movie because Sandra Bullock has had a longer career, Sandra Bullock is more prominent in that regard. Melissa McCarthy was just becoming her own, because remember, the movie was from 2013. Melissa McCarthy really only, even though she was on, what was she on? What was she on? I mean, was it Gilmore Girls? I think that's the show she was on.
Melissa McCarthy? No, me and Mike and Molly.
Well, there was that, but I think she got her start in the early part of the decade on Gilmore Girls, I thought. But anyway, that being said, that's probably more of a billing issue, top billing, than an aesthetic thing. So yeah. You do have to keep that in mind. But anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the Exorcist poster. Yeah, that poster you showed me is great, and it's so subtle, and it takes a while. Oh, I'm noticing I got that crumb thing happening again. I don't know what it is.
Dave, are you eating right before we go live?
No, I'm not. I don't know why that's even on there. I love it. It's so subtle, and it took me a bit when you showed it to me a couple of days ago. It took me a bit to actually see the demon.
The demon,
and
right.
I love how subtle that is, because I bet you. I mean, obviously, if you had it close up on your wall, you would probably notice it. I'm looking at it, but I think that's great. Those subtle details I absolutely love. So you're absolutely right. I mean, the example I gave with the Heat poster is not every movie requires something like that. It's just when you see something like that, it's kind of, oh, that's so cool. It's so
right.
Because you don't see it anymore. Posters are like, even that poster that you have right there with The Exorcist. If that was a movie that was coming out today, that's a great poster.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's beautiful, and it's simple, and it's different. Walk up and down your theater when you go to the movie theater. Walk up and down the aisle and look at the posters hanging on the wall. You'll see that a lot of them, like I said, they look similar in their art, but you'll notice that there's that symmetrical sort of placement. There's a lot of similarities in their placement.
Oh, absolutely.
I just want to say this too. Devontae, if you've got nothing nice to say, fuck off and get out of the chat room.
Our boy
Like,
Devontae.
seriously.
Our buddy
All right?
Devontae.
Like, buddy, look, I appreciate your comments, but all you do is come in here and you have nothing constructive to say. I'm 40 years old, Devontae. That's why I got gray hair on my chin. Okay?
Are you really getting ridiculed for your gray hair on your chin?
Yeah, I just think, like,
God, Devontae, man, you better look like Brad Pitt. That's all I'm saying,
well,
bro.
no. Look, and ordinarily, I don't say anything to anybody in the chat room because I am of the mindset that as long as you don't, say anything racist, as long as you aren't being, saying anything that's threatening anybody with their lives or saying I'm going to kill you or anything like that, I think you should say something, or sorry, you should be able to say whatever it is. Sure. The problem, Devontae, and you reached out to me like a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago. Like, I don't have issues, but it seems like you never really bring anything constructive to the chat room. And I think you're better than that. I think you're better than that. I really do. I think you're better than that. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't express your opinions. Okay. That doesn't mean that maybe some people aren't going to agree with you, but I think you're better than that. And to come into the chat room and just say things like that, or to say something like you often do, where you try to be sort of a provocateur,
yeah, I saw him say something. What did he say? He said that he made a comment about your gray Dave White. Oh, your Dave Gray's hair, and then he said
it's not well, and that doesn't bother.
And he said Tony finally shaved that ridiculous mustache and beard. Yeah, that's because I'm leaving tomorrow because I have a commercial shoot for AT&T. What are you doing tomorrow?
Yeah, well, it's the thing where, like, it's not what he said that bothers me. People, look, when you have a YouTube channel, you get a lot of things thrown at you. I have very thick skin. What the reason why I call them out is because, and same with the Lucas Tout there as well, is that there's never anything constructive that they say, and it's sort of like, I see it, and other people tend to call them out, and that's great, but I find it so
annoying.
Well, not
obnoxious.
Not annoying at all. I find it quite sad. Like, I really do. I find it incredibly sad that these people, Lucas and included there, could probably bring something really constructive to the conversation. Say something that's really positive and contribute and be awesome. Right? Like, I think everybody would agree. Like, we want everybody to be awesome here. We want everybody to contribute and speak your mind and say something. But when you're not contributing, it's just like, I look at it, I'm just like, I don't know what your end game is. Guys, like, come on, you guys are better than that. It doesn't bother me at the end of the day. It doesn't bother me. That's why I leave all this open. I can remove your ability to comment. I can remove your ability to give me a thumb up or thumb down, but I don't, because I believe in freedom of speech online. Sure. That you should, as long as you're not being racist or threatening anybody, you should be able to do whatever you want, including what they're doing now. I just think it's so, ridiculous, right? I just think it's so silly, because it's like, I believe that I think they can be better than that. But hey, there they are doing what they do. And I'll let everybody else,
Hey, on a cool note, now I can show you my what I have. I went with the fan art. I told you about this the other day. I'm not a big movie poster person today, but if I see something like the Audrey Hepburn or the Jack Kennedy picture, like that one is so cool of Jack smoking a stogie. When I saw
right,
that is like such a cool picture. This was the poster that I have outside. I'm not going to take it down off my wall, but this is the shot I was telling you about of The Shining. This is that picture that you see the axe, you see Stanley Kubrick film, and at the bottom it says all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And I was like, man, that is so freaking cool. Well, because it matched up well with my other picture here, Clockwork Orange.
Right.
This is what I have right next to it is, for those who don't know, I'm a Stanley Kubrick guru. That's like literally like my idol. And yeah, when I saw these two, I thought, man, these are very cool, distinctive pictures. It's not the traditional Shining poster, and it's not the traditional A Clockwork Orange poster that you're used to seeing, you know, like Malcolm McDowell or Jack Nicholson on the cover. And I thought, like, this would be worthy enough to hang up in my house. And right next to it, when I saw that Exorcist one, I was like, that's going to complete the trilogy on my wall, because I've said this many times. If you want to make a good horror film, just watch those 3 films and use that as your kind of, you know, your storyboard to execute and make a really good horror film. So this is a rare case where I argue and say sometimes there are artists out there who can deliver and make a really cool poster. In this case, I got really lucky. That's an artist out there that made these 2 Stanley Kubrick posters, and I fell in love with them right away. I said, I got to have them. I want to hang these up on my house.
Yeah, I think I love those posters. I think they look great. And I would love to get the poster that I would love to get on my wall is the original Shining poster.
Yes.
The yellow one. The yellow one. Yeah, you have it. Oh, he's looking for it. And Jaws.
I put him up there.
I gotta get the Jaws poster. I used to have the Jaws poster. Well, yes, that's good, but I'm talking about
I forgot. I put the trilogy up. I call them the trilogy, even though they're not a trilogy. The Exorcist, right. Clockwork Orange, and The Shining up there.
Yes, I would love. Yes, that one with Jack Nicholson's face would be great too. But I'd also love to get the original. Yeah,
and this is the iconic Clockwork Orange poster that and I could have gone with this one, but when I saw the other one, I was like, man, the other one just from an artistic point of view, I was like, that was very cool and very. And the same thing with the Shining poster. I feel like I could have gone the route you're talking about but when I saw those other 2, I was like, nope, because I look for stuff that's different. Like, that's cool. That's the album cover. I have that on the vinyl. That's the vinyl.
That's the original theatrical poster.
Okay. Yes, that's the vinyl cover.
Yeah. That's a really interesting. It's weird looking. Like, it almost looks like an alien face.
It really does.
It's very alien-like. I would love to know. Maybe somebody in the chat room knows. I'd love to know. And don't guess, people. I can tell. I can tell when people are guessing. I love. Oh, well, it was this thing in 1950. But I would love to know what the original sort of idea was behind that. Like, why that face? Now, it's entirely possible that this was created, of course, before the movie came out, which often movie posters are. Therefore, this is the artist's interpretation of something, you know, otherworldly, something, you know, creepy or unusual. That could have been the direction given when you're creating this poster.
Belongs in the 50s.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. I love it. Now, I do love the iconic Jack Nicholson poster as well. I think that's great, but there's something really creepy about that.
True. Very true.
Yeah, let me take that down. And there we go. Yeah, there's so many. Do you know what poster I absolutely loved as a kid? But I never saw the movie until I was an adult, and I've only
Pamela
seen it
Anderson's.
No, no, and I've only seen it once. Was the movie to the original? The poster to the original Fright Night. Do you know the poster?
Yeah.
The one with the face coming out of the clouds above the house.
All 80s horror movies posters were freaking great. And I don't care how crappy the movie was. The movie posters were fucking awesome.
Yeah, they were great. They were absolutely great.
Well, I said this off the air the other day. The best movie poster probably of all time for a marketing campaign alone is the Jason Takes Manhattan, where Jason's slicing through the I Heart New York. That is just so, I mean, from a marketing point of view, it's so iconic. Even though the movie doesn't deliver, it sucks. I mean, no offense to anybody who likes Jason Takes Manhattan, but the marketing for that is just, it's so freaking brilliant. That's a poster I would like to get my hands on, is the one where Jason, not the one where he's over Manhattan. If anyone out there knows what I'm talking about, there is a poster where he's slicing through the I Heart New York. That's the one I really liked. Not the one where he's over Manhattan. That one was cool, but I like the one where he's slicing through I Heart
New York.
Yeah, he's slicing through I Heart New York. I'm telling you, it's you have to look it up. I'm almost positive that either the studio was told not to do that because the company who owns the copyright issues to I Heart New York didn't want that as part of, you know, Friday the 13th marketing slogan. So they switched it to Jason over Manhattan, which is still cool. It's still a dope shot, but it's not him slicing through I Heart New York.
Okay, I'm going to have to look that one up, because the one I'm thinking of is the one where, yeah, his face is over Manhattan. The one thing I hate about that one where he's over Manhattan is that he's got this wimpy little scream knife. And I absolutely hate that. He should have a machete that is going along the entire front of the waterfront or something like that. Do you remember that? Like, he's got this little wimpy knife. I mean, when I say wimpy knife, I mean, in comparison to what we're used to with Jason Voorhees. I mean, you know, we're used to him having this gigantic machete. And in the poster for Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan, he's got this little knife. It's not even a Rambo knife. It's like the knife they use in Scream, which it's still a knife. You know, it's not a kitchen knife, but it always bothered me. Even as a kid, I remember thinking, that doesn't look intimidating to me.
Are you talking about this one right here? Because this is the poster I'm referring to.
No, that's not the one I'm talking about, but that's great.
Isn't it so cool, man? Like, I would love to get my hands on this picture to have as a poster hanging in my home. It is so dope.
You know, I've never seen that poster before.
Because see, in the background, as he's slicing through it, you can just see the faintness of Manhattan behind him. I don't know which buildings there are, but they ultimately went with, because the company who owns I Heart New York, whoever owns that trademark, they didn't want Friday the 13th to use that, so they changed it to what we all know for Friday the 13th. But that is such a badass picture. I really want to get my hands on that.
Right. Yeah, that looks fantastic. That's a great looking poster.
God, I miss the 80s.
It's cool. I wonder if when that poster came out.
Probably right around the time when the movie came out.
Yeah,
I mean, I could just like take I could take an image off of, the internet and print it, but I'm looking for someone to hopefully maybe redistribute it to where I can buy something of good quality. Cause that's like, I'm not like into like I said, I'm not into collecting like movie posters. It doesn't necessarily have to be like what you have. Like I've seen like your Raiders of the Lost Ark and stuff like those are cool. I will be more inclined to buying like an artist, interpretation of something like what we were talking about the other day, some of the Halloween, like what I've seen on Instagram on the Halloween fan art posters, I think they blow away what we got that's hanging up behind you. Some of the fan art that's out there is so really cool that I wish that maybe some of these studios might commission some of these artists and say, hey, we really love your photograph. We want to use it as part of our marketing campaign.
Yeah, it's cool. Like I like the yeah, I'm just looking at it now. It's good.
Which one are you looking at? Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that Jason, the Friday the 13th. I never liked this poster.
Which one is it?
The original Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh, where he's over Manhattan.
Yeah, and he's got this little wimpy knife. I just think it looks so lame. And of course, we would be remiss if we did not say that the original Halloween is one of the most iconic posters of all time.
Oh,
not
for
just
sure. I have
beautiful.
that, but I have it in it's like the size of, it's like that's not 8x10. That's like 10x12.
Right.
I have that, and that's out outside as well too.
Right.
I have that. I think you have the full poster though, right? Of the original Halloween.
Oh yes, yeah. I have it plaqued.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to get the original Halloween 2 poster as well. That would be cool.
Someone asked in the chat if I had a time machine, would I go back into the 80s? Yeah, because it was a much better time. I mean, I will say this. I love how far we've come with technology and the advancements that we have today. Believe me, what I'm able to do as a photographer today and market myself and get clients and whatnot is so much easier than like going around with my portfolio in a physical book in my hand, knocking on doors and saying, hey, are you interested, hiring people for photography work and whatnot? Because that's literally what I had to do back in the day, Now with social media, it does make it easier to market and to get clients and to build a clientele and whatnot. And that's how clients like AT&T and, Microsoft and the NFL, found me, and that's how this movie company found me, where I'm going to start doing unit photography for here in mid-December and doing this unit stills for a movie that's being shot here in Atlanta.
That's great.
So
that's
there's
fantastic.
pros. There's a lot of pros to living in today. But yes, I would, if I could go back in time, I would love to be my age, 39, and live, well, maybe even younger than 39, and living in the 80s, because the 80s is arguably the best overall decade. People just had fun. You had people protesting, because every decade has their own version of protesting, but the overall majority of that decade was just good times, good music, good movies. And yeah, I would totally take that decade and set it into today. Absolutely. If I knew that that's the kind of culture we were living in.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if to go back and visit might be interesting, to go back and live, because then that means I would have to.
We couldn't do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So to go back and visit would be kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, there's almost too many to name, but I wish they would go back to, I understand that logistically they can't do it because we're just not there. I mean, things evolve, right? The one constant in this world is change, and we are where we are when it comes to posters, and that's fine. And it's not that there aren't some great modern posters. There absolutely, but it's just when I see a poster that is like the example I gave, it's like, oh wow, like you could make a poster like that. And you might be able to make it a lot easier, because you probably make it in the computer. Sure. You don't actually have Drew Struzan who's hand drawing, or painting and airbrushing and all this kind of stuff, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. But, it's like the equivalent of moving from film to digital, but
what did you
lose a lot of that charm. There's a lot of, when I see posters like the one with the heat, I was like, oh, that's so cool. I'd go with that. That's kind of funky.
Sure.
But then, of course, if everybody started to do that, they would lose its charm and it wouldn't be different anymore. So,
What did you think of, someone asked in the chat room, what did you think of the original Nightmare on Elm Street poster?
Oh, I love it. I have it out in my hallway.
Yeah, I like it too. It's iconic, even though Langenkamp looks like she's giving duck lips there. If you look closely, she's got like she got little pouty lips going on, so that could have been the birth of duck lips. But other than that, it's iconic. It's great. It's it's simple, very artistic, from a drawing point of view, because it's obviously it's an or painting, I should say. It's a painting, and I like it. It's iconic. Same thing with like what I have on my VHS. What you were talking about, the original Friday the 13th. Movie poster, which you were wearing the sweatshirt on our stream, where it's the silhouette of Mrs. Voorhees holding the knife, and you see the counselors in the woods like that.
That's right. That's
very simple, So, and that's where you talk about
great poster. That's why I was just gonna say that, like, out in my hallway there, outside of my studio, I have the original Halloween, the original Elm Street, and the original Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Not just because those are my favorite installments of each series, but they're my favorite posters as well. And that doesn't mean that there aren't great posters. I will say that the Friday the 13th series, the Elm Street series, not so much the Halloween series. I will say the Elm Street series had better cover art and better posters.
Yep.
Friday the 13th had better cover art and better posters. Halloween stopped. Halloween had was great with 1, was great with 2, was great with 3.
3 is good.
4 was fine.
No, 4 was bad, and I'll tell you why. And I'm a defender of 4. I love 4, but the reason why 4 is bad is it's misleading because you have the Kirk mask, and you don't get the Kirk mask.
I understand that, but looking at it just artistically, that's why I said it's fine, because there was a
5 is okay. 5 is decent. I do like 5. I kind of like the half face and with Daniel Harris.
I didn't like 5. I didn't like 5. I think the Halloween, and of course when you get to H2O and Resurrection, it's very 90s. You know,
it's so 90s.
This is how we're presenting, you know, movie posters in the 90s.
H2O and Resurrection were like pretty much the same picture.
Well, and so not the original Scream poster, but when you get to Scream 2 and Scream 3, look at the posters for I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I Still Know What You Did
Urban Legends.
Summer, Urban Legend, the same type of visual aesthetic. And
so 1990s. All I can hear now is Creed in my head. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. No. It was bad. Yeah, no,
Someone mentioned the Rocky poster. Rocky, you know, there's different with Rocky. There are different variations of the Rocky about the original Rocky poster. You can get Stallone with the gloves and he's got his hands over the ropes. That's one iconic picture. There's the other iconic picture with Stallone and Talia Shire where he's embracing her and she's embracing him. I'm trying to think what other one. There's like 3 or 4 different iconic original Rocky posters.
Right.
You know, there's not just one. So it all depends on which one you're referring to in the comment section. But yeah, I mean, freaking, I love Rocky. I love all the Rocky posters were great.
They were. The Rocky 4 was great too. Yeah. And he's got the flag and he's kind of like this in the arms of Burt Young.
Yep.
And oh no, it wasn't Burt Young. He was in the arms of the
Apollo's trainer. Yeah.
But yeah, the Rocky posters are great. And there's a lot of good posters. There's a lot of bad ones too.
There's a lot of bad. There's a lot of campy, cheesy 80s posters too.
Oh, of course there is. Of course there are. Oh yeah, there are. Absolutely. Oh yeah. I need to get the Jaws. I used to have the Jaws poster.
The original?
The original.
Yeah.
But it was scotch taped. So that didn't go over well. So I want to get it again and have it plaqued.
Yeah.
Because that's iconic. It's such a great, it's a great image of this, you know, woman swimming and just this shark. You know what I mean? And
sure.
You know, it's just
simplicity. You know, sometimes you know, like I know you're a big fan of, you know, the Last Jedi's. No, I'm sorry, the Force Awakens movie poster. I was on the other side of it. I felt like it was too busy. I felt like there was too much going on there. I get why they were doing it because it was, you know, a callback, you know, getting back to the roots of Star Wars and so on and so forth. So I understood why everything was on there, but in contrast to that, when you look at the Jaws poster, again, where, you know, in my personal preference taste for movie posters, simplicity, you know, the simplicity of the shark at the bottom and you've got the swimmer up at the top. Same thing with E.T. in the iconic E.T. movie poster. You got the simple silhouette of E.T. and Elliot riding across the moon, you know, silhouette with the trees, you know, and whatnot. I mean, it's simple and it's perfect. Even with, you know, the Karate Kid, you know, you got Miyagi's face on one side, Daniel's on the other side, and boom, smack in the center, you got Daniel silhouetted doing the crane. You know, it's not too much, it's not super busy, and it definitely, you know, is another iconic picture. I only said that because I'm looking at my Karate Kid vinyl as I, you know, look over there, and then I look at part 3 and I'm like, you really didn't put any effort in that one, did you guys? Oh, movie sequels. That's another topic in itself.
Which one are you looking at? The Exorcist 3, you said?
No, the Karate Kid 3.
Oh,
in my Karate.
I don't know why I heard you say Exorcist.
My Karate Kid corner. I've got the VHS and the vinyl records and the books, and actually, I'll show you. Hold on, I'll grab it. Oh, yeah, this was given to me as a gift from my 10-year-old girl, my neighbor's, his daughter painted this. Cool. The Miyagi logo, because Karate Kid is probably my all-time, like, I love Halloween, but it's like, if we were to define like what is your all-time favorite movie, probably be the Karate Kid, hands down. Yeah, it would have to be the Karate Kid for sure.
Yeah, that would be I think we should reserve that topic for another show.
Because it depends. Oh, absolutely. Because it depends. Like, are we talking now? Like, because then, you know, A Clockwork Orange is also my favorite because from the technical side of it and how Stanley Kubrick shot it. So it's like defining your favorite film. It really depends on how we are defining, you know, our favorite films. But absolutely, that would be a great topic to do one night, because it just depends on, you know. But Karate Kid for sure, probably, because that was such a huge impact to my childhood. The sequel poster to Karate Kid 2 is all right, is decent, not as good as the first one, but Part 3. I mean, Part 3 was okay, but it's just like Part 3. It's like what you were talking about here with the '90s film. Part 3 and Part 4 had very similar features, because Part 3 had half of Daniel's face, half of Miyagi's face, kind of merged together here, and then you had them up on the mountain, you know, in their kata formation, which, you know, again, it's all right. It's not great, but you can see that as movies progress, sometimes they don't put enough effort into the sequels, unless you get this lightning in the bottle that Friday the 13th had with Jason Takes Manhattan. And it's just such a bummer that the I Heart New York people put an X on that, because I think overall that probably would be considered one of the most iconic posters from the 80s if they were allowed to use that poster.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's a good poster. It's a good poster. And it's immediately identifiable as well. Like, you know what you're looking at, you know?
Oh, someone wants to know what's up with season 2 with Cobra Kai. They're filming it right now. They're legit, like, right up the road. Production is literally going on, like, up the road from where I live right now. So they're filming that. They're filming that here, and I think they're filming parts of it in LA. They rebuilt Miyagi's house in LA. I was so pissed. I was hoping they were going to rebuild Miyagi's house here in Atlanta, but they didn't. So it's like they're splitting it up between here and filming it in LA. So they're shooting right now. That's all I can tell you.
Very cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah. and I just also heard that they wrapped season 3 of Stranger Things as well.
Yeah, so, dude. If I can, now that they've wrapped it, I'm gonna go right back up there again this week, because they're done. They're wrapped. And before they take everything down, this is so cool what they did, guys. I wish you could see it, but so anyway, long story short, we have 3 malls near us, and one of the malls where I live nearby, for those of you who are our age, it's like one of the last, it's a dinosaur. It's one of those malls that are from the 70s and the 80s, literally still framed exactly the way that you probably would remember going to a mall back in 1980s. And what they did is they took from the interior of this, they rebuilt the interior of this mall, because it's like a ghost mall. I mean, there's some stores there that currently do business, but the rest of it is like vacant and emptied, because we have other malls that are occupied and whatnot. Of course, we have the Mall of Georgia, which is like the 2nd largest mall in the world, right up the road from us as well, too. But this mall, man, I'm telling you, they brought back like Radio Shack. They brought back arcades inside this mall, JCPenney's, and not JCPenney, G-Fox, all different types of names that you would remember from the 1980s. And we got to walk around the mall and see everything set up that they had for the production designs for Stranger Things season 3, but we couldn't photograph it at the time because they were in the middle of production. Now that production's wrapped, what I want to do is I want to go there and get some photographs of it, just so that I can maybe even show everyone on the live stream one night, and show them, like, you know, the makeup job that they did, because oh my God, I walked in there, I was like, my fucking childhood. Like, this is my childhood. Every store in there, Suncoast, like they got Suncoast Video in there too. Now, I don't know what stores are going to be shown in, you know, the shots, but it was very cool to the attention of detail that the production designers did for season 3 with this mall setup. And it was so cool, because it's like a 2-minute drive up the road from where I live. A lot of movies and shows, like Avengers, the new Avengers film that's coming out 2018, and the previous one, Infinity War, literally a lot of the fight scenes that you saw in New York were filmed up the street from where I lived. So it was pretty cool to see all that. It makes traffic a little bitch at times, but it's also fun to be close to that, you know, radius of, you know, cool things that are being filmed. Walking Dead, I'm nowhere near that. That's on the other side of Georgia.
Yeah, I don't watch The Walking Dead.
Yeah, neither do I.
Don't care about The Walking Dead. Hey, let's take some questions from the chat room here. 119 people watching. This has been sort of a mishmashy kind of episode with a middle focus on some movie posters. We were just talking about some of our favorite movie posters. I mean, I could go down the list. You know, the Back to the Future, the Jaws, the Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite out of the original Star Wars trilogy poster for sure. But I do like the original Star Wars poster. And I'm not talking about the special edition re-release of the original trilogy in the mid-90s. I'm talking about the original 1977 where it just said Star Wars. Okay, it didn't have A New Hope on it, didn't have Han Solo in there. The one where Luke looks ridiculously ripped, right? And he's got like his arm up in the air and all that kind of shit, and he just looks unbelievably ridiculous. So there's so many posters.
He does. I remember that poster. He looks like completely absurd in that. Sorry, I'm just trying to respond to someone in the chat room here. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that there's so many posters that we could talk about. We could go on forever. But let's take it to the chat room and see if anybody's got any questions. Any questions? Any questions at all?
I see Devontae is still
is he having an argument with somebody?
Yeah.
Questions, people. Questions.
Dave, what's the meaning of life?
The meaning of life. You want to know what the meaning of life is?
I can tell you one simple answer. Just be a good person. Be a cool dude. That's it.
The meaning of life.
Respect each other.
Right. But for me, the meaning of life is to learn. And because it's the only thing that you could feasibly take with you. If there is an afterlife, if you could go, it's the only thing. Is to learn from your mistakes, to learn to be a better person, to learn and to always it's just that's learn as much as you can.
Not only
you
learn,
never fail in life if you learn.
Well, exactly. Not only, and the reason why that is so important and goes along the lines with the respect is that, you know, some people have asked me would I do streams with Cody Leach and some of the other people, and not that I would be opposed to doing that stuff. But the reason why I chose doing this with Dave is because when talking with Dave and Dave's listening to me talk about the reason why Halloween 4 is my favorite, Dave's not going to attack me. Dave is not going to sit there and be like, your credibility is, you know, what are you talking about? Are you fucking insane? You're going to put Halloween 4 over the, no, he understands I'm coming at it from a personal, you know, a sentimental side to it. Cause you know, I've shared the stories many times and I'm not going to repeat it. So that's where, you know, from that perspective, where Dave's talking about, you learn from each other, and you respect each other's and your viewpoints and your opinions. Whereas I felt like if I do streams with other people and that conversation ever comes up, I already know. It's like I'm setting myself up to end up getting, you know, being baited into an argument, having to defend myself on why I like Halloween 4 and why Halloween 4 is my favorite. Whereas with Dave, I don't have to. I can just, he's all right, cool, dude, whatever, you know, and there's no judgment, you know,
right.
Like, you know, and that's,
and we don't always have to agree. It's not like Tony and I are going to agree all the time on what, like, there might be a movie he just absolutely loves. And I'm just like, I'm not really crazy on that. Who gives a shit? Who fucking cares?
I know Cody wouldn't attack me, guys. I was just saying it as an example. Like, don't misconstrue don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm just saying, I just was using, be careful. Yeah, I know that. I know he wouldn't attack me. I'm just saying as an example, you know, I don't know how other people would respond in certain conversations. I know how Dave is going to respond. There's a trust there to know that it's never going to, that if we were to disagree on something, it's not going to escalate. It's not going to get problematic. We're not going to sit here and, you know, you're going to have that awkward staring silence. You know what I mean? Like, there would be none of that going on. You would be like, okay, cool. You know, so you like Halloween 4. It's your favorite in the series. And I'm not saying Cody would do that. I just was just, because people have asked me, would I do a stream with Cody Leach? Absolutely, I would. But there would have to be a trust factor to know that, like, if we ever got into certain topics, and primarily Cody covers horror movies, and I'm a big fan of horror movies as well too, that my hesitation sometimes to do that with other people is because I don't don't know how the camaraderie, the respect, would be there like it is with me and Dave. And I'm sure it would be fine, but I just was using him as an example. Maybe that might have been a bad example. John Campea, how about that? There's a good example.
John Campea. He's Canadian, isn't he? I think.
Yeah, he's your friend. He's your guy.
He's my friend. I don't know. I've never met him.
We don't lay claim to him.
No, I don't know him. I've never met him at all.
He's all yours.
He's from here, but I don't know him. Okay, let's see here. Just scrolling up.
Who do I think is going to win the Super Bowl this year? I mean, come on. Actually, no, in all seriousness, who would I think would, of course I'm going to root for the Patriots, but if I were to really seriously, it's going to probably be either Kansas City and the Saints or Kansas City and the Rams. I don't think the Patriots have enough to get them there this year. If the Patriots have to go to Kansas City and play Kansas City in the playoffs for the AFC title, I love my Pats, but Kansas City's nasty this year. They are so good, and they are just charging on all cylinders. And the Chiefs, the Rams and the Saints. It's really going to come down to one of those two teams from the NFC. If I were betting today to answer that question, I'd probably put my money on probably the Saints. The Saints are just playing really I don't know. Because everyone's playing so good right now except the Patriots. The Patriots are not playing consistently good. They have good moments, but they're just not. That's what worries me about them. That they have moments where they're, they look like they can pull it together, but then they have moments like a week or so ago in Houston where they get their heads handed to them. Or Tennessee, wherever we were a couple weeks ago. So
yeah, unfortunately I'm not qualified to answer that question because I am not a big football fan, so I don't follow football. I can name all the teams though. If I saw all their logos, I could say, oh, that's the Saints, that's the Falcons, that's the Browns, that's the Bills, that's the the Lions. That's you know what I mean?
Sure.
But I can't. I'm just never really got into football. Now my brothers and my sister Jill too, they're big into football.
Like NFL or college?
No, NFL.
NFL, okay.
NFL, yeah. My brother Neil is a big fan of the Chiefs, and my brother Bob and my sister are both Green Bay fans.
So let's reverse that question and give Dave a fair answer. Dave, who do you think is going to win the Stanley Cup this year?
You know what? I don't know. I don't think my Buffalo Sabres, who have been playing really horribly over the last few years, just recently came off a 10-game win streak. Now they've lost 2 in a row since then, but they were first place overall in the entire league for like a day. And then now I think they're down to like 3rd or 4th now again after their couple of losses. But Sabres fans are losing their minds thinking that this is it. I'm like, hey, it's the end of November. It was the end of November. We still got like 4 months of the season. No. Yeah. So, no, not the Sabres. Sabres still have a few more years to go. But I will say though, and it's not just because I'm in Toronto, the Toronto Maple Leafs have a shot. Yeah, they do. And and I know the Leafs are the team that everybody loves to hate, but you got to look at it objectively, realistically, and look at it, say they are a very talented team, and they are. Look, the playoffs is a completely different story, completely different season. What happens in the playoffs? You could be first place overall and go, 81-1 in the whole season or something, and then go out in the first round of the playoffs. It's a completely different ball game,
sure,
so to speak. But the Leafs have a good shot, and of course they haven't won the Stanley Cup since 1967. They're one of the longest drought teams in all of the professional, all the major leagues right now. So, but they are a team that everybody loves to hate. So, but looking at it realistically, I go, yeah, they're pretty talented. They're doing pretty well. It wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me if they did.
Postseason, like yesterday I was at, I told Dave this, and for those of you who don't know, I live in Georgia. I live in Atlanta, and I went to the Alabama-Georgia game yesterday. And, championship games are crazy, man. You're watching Georgia dominate this game for 3 quarters, but football is a 4-quarter game. And when you don't play a team hard for 4 quarters like Alabama, you're going to end up choking in the end. And my God, I still feel for the Georgia fans today. I see them out there. They just have this look of like despair on their face because they had this happen to them not once, but twice in a 12-month time frame to choke in a championship game like that. It's so, and not really just, you know, with the Bulldogs, but the Falcons did the same shit 2 years ago. So Georgia football right now is just not good. It's not good, but being there, man, I love being there, and I love being at hockey games too. That's one element I do miss about being up north, is going to a hockey game. I mean, yeah, the Whalers left back in 1990s, and I used to go to Whaler games all the time.
And Atlanta had the Atlanta Thrashers.
We did, but they just no one went to the games.
They moved up to Winnipeg, so they're the Winnipeg Jets right now.
Yeah, terrible call on that fake punt. Yeah, there's the. Don't even get me started, man. I just sat there shaking my head yesterday in the stands. Like, I cannot believe I'm watching this happen again. Of course, you have the Alabama fans, man, who are like, yeah, we're the best. You're the best because you guys got lucky again is what happened to you. But
here's a good question. Super Saiyan Ryu, whatever it is. Sorry, I butchered your name. What do you guys expect in the new Terminator? Yeah, come on. Also, it's so cliche, but you know, you have to do it. Also, have you seen Creed 2? I have not seen Creed 2 yet. I do want to see Creed 2.
Love Creed 2. I won't talk about it since Dave hasn't seen it. Love it. It's great.
Perfect. Yeah, my buddy saw it as well, so he thinks it's great. What do I want to, or what do I expect from the new Terminator? Well,
we're talking about the one with what's her name returning, right?
Linda Hamilton? The one that's coming out next November.
Yeah. Now is Hamilton and Schwarzenegger in it?
Yeah, they are.
They are. Awesome.
I have no idea.
Is Eddie Furlong coming back?
No, he doesn't look like he's in the best of shape. I don't know. You know, yeah, I don't know. All I know is that again, we're on this nostalgic kick. You know, that's the era we're in. Everybody's doing this kind of thing.
The thing I like about Creed 2 is that Creed 2 is not just nostalgia. Creed in itself stands on its own. Even though, yes, it is a spin-off of Rocky, it really does stand on its own. And both films are great.
It does. And I can tell you right now, without having seen Creed 2, I know what happens. I know Adonis will win. I know that he'll lose before he wins. I know there'll be a training montage. I know there'll be some motivational speeches by Rocky. I know there'll be a little bit of a, I know it's going to happen. It's just, it's the same formula, but it's good. It's apple pie, but it's good. And it works. And you go and you love it. And it's great. And I have no doubt that I will enjoy it because I really like Rocky 4. So I have no doubt that it will be nice to see that. With the Terminator, though, like we said, I mean, my expectations on it, I expect that it will. I don't know, because I did not like the promotional material that they. I did not like the promotional material that they released in regards to the new Terminator, which was a few months back. They released an image that had Linda Hamilton on it.
Right.
And it was just awful. It looked like it would look airbrushed to shit. It looked like it was so saturated and crunched and so polished. It looked very polished and like I'm opening up a magazine that I can still smell the pages, and I'm turning the pages and the pages are glossy, and I'm looking at this, and let me see if I can get that. I hated the image. It was so awful. So if
while you're pulling that up, someone asked a pretty cool question on what your favorite 80s teen movie is. Now, are we going to count Karate Kid as an 80s teen movie? Because if that's the case, then that's going to be my answer. But I'll go one further and not go with a predictable answer like the Karate Kid. And I will say, from a genre point of view, probably The Breakfast Club. Anything John Hughes. I'd have to go with John. Anything, it's tough because I like The Breakfast Club. I like St. Elmo's Fire. I saw that. I saw that. I know. That looked like someone who just literally learned photography and is trying to learn how to do Photoshop.
But when I look at this photo, I think to myself, like, really, this is, it looks so, it just looks so oh God. Terminator's not supposed to be this kind of a movie. It looks too polished and too staged. It's too staged is what it is. It's way too staged.
It looks like someone just learned photography,
Yes.
and they're just learning how to airbrush for the first time.
But the creative choice to just use this as the image, I would never have approved this. Never. I would have never. I look at this and I go, this just looks too, it looks too staged. It looks too, I get the same feeling from this as I got from that ridiculously brightly lit staged image of Michael Myers for Halloween 2018.
It's funny because someone said in the chat room, because I was thinking the same thing myself. Noah Hanley says, no offense, but is that a boy in the middle? I almost was going to say, I was thinking the same shit because I don't know if I couldn't tell if it's a dude or a chick in the middle or both.
Yeah, I actually now I don't know. Is it a man or is it a woman?
He looks, it's in the middle of the road for me, man. I don't know.
I'm not trying to be.
Neither am I. I'm not trying to be a dick about it. I'm just saying I genuinely
think it's a woman. I think it's a woman. I think it's a woman. I think it's a woman. But I'm not. So because this was the first promotional image they released a few months ago, and really we haven't seen anything since, other than if you YouTube Terminator 6 being shot, you can watch some candid shit that somebody shot of the movie being made. You can see a couple of cars, rolling down a street or something. No, I'm not really excited. I mean, I'm really not. This doesn't excite me. This doesn't excite me. We'll see what the poster looks like, but I mean, not that the poster should excite, but it's just a poster. We'll see what the first teaser looks like. We should get a first teaser probably maybe next spring or something like that. It'll probably be attached to one of the blockbusters coming out next spring, maybe to Avengers or something.
Sure.
And we'll see. But this does not excite me. I look at this and I just see grandma. It almost looks like Linda Hamilton is now a spoof of herself. She's a caricature of herself.
Right.
And it just looks a little comical to me. I would not have given this promotional image the green light. It's so staged, so cliche. The women on the road, they're armed. The woman on the far right looks like she's just got off work. I don't know. I mean, or on the far left, I don't know how you guys are seeing it. Yeah, I guess I don't know. And let me see how you guys are seeing it, because it's back to front for me.
No, you're right.
I'm right. No, it would be the far left. The one in the suit, or in the collared shirt, I mean. So I don't know. It doesn't.
We seem to be and Halloween can even jump into that category as well too. We are in the also the trending days of feminine power. Halloween definitely is a part of that, with 3 generations of strode women. That's I kept seeing Jamie Lee Curtis talking about that, and when she was promoting the film on her Instagram, and when she was doing interviews and whatnot. And this, again, just seems like I have no issues with a strong female lead character. I never had, because that's been the story arc for some of my favorite horror movies. It's always been a strong female character. Nancy from Nightmare, Amy Steele from Friday 2, or, Jamie Lee from the original Halloween. That is the story arc to a lot of our favorite films, is you have a strong, smart female character. So I don't have a problem with that. The problem that I have with it is the intention that they're doing it, and why they're doing it, and the reason behind it. When I would just sit there with a lot of these actors and say, you've been doing this all along. This is nothing. You're not changing anything that's not already been done. Ripley from Aliens, another badass female-led character. You could go through the story arc of Hollywood films. I mean, my God, you can go back to the 1930s films, with the female in Dracula. Not the female who played Dracula, but I'm saying the female who played opposite to Dracula and whatnot. So, I mean, that's just, the heroine has always been there. I don't know why they're making it such a big deal today, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean, obviously, there is it is what it is. And I have no issues with it whatsoever. There's a fine line that you have to be careful that you don't come off as pretentious or virtue signaling in an inappropriate forum.
Right.
And if you want to build up women, or if you want to build up, that's fine. It's fine. But you have to be very careful that you don't come across as condescending
And
or
that's how it's coming across.
pretentious.
It's coming
Well,
across
it does
condescending. It's
in
coming
some
across
mediums. Yeah.
right and very feminist. And it's just like, wait, hold on, time out. Go back to film history and rewatch a lot of this shit, because the female has always and will always be the heroine of a lot of these films.
Yeah.
You know,
One thing I will say that I feel very strongly about is, and I will say this, I do not want, nor do I believe, that a woman should become an already well-known character established as a male. If you want to have
wait, say that again, like meaning like a
well,
female Michael Myers.
Right. Well, no, yes,
Michelle Myers,
like
basically.
No, like a female James Bond or a female Indiana Jones or whatever it is. You don't. That's not helping anybody, and it's not helping the purpose of what you want to do.
But isn't Laura Croft like Indiana Jones?
Well, essentially, yes. The problem, and this is true. The problem is not that there are not other examples of what would be deemed, you see, but what they want to do is they want to capitalize on the brand, you see.
Right.
And the problem is that we do have a female Indiana Jones, if you will. Her name is Lara Croft. The problem is nobody cares about her.
Except the game.
Nobody cares about the game, but nobody goes to see these movies. And I'm not saying they're not good movies. And I'm not saying that she didn't do a good job, the most recent one.
Right.
I've heard
that's
that it was
why the female Ghostbusters failed.
Right. And I'm somebody that actually, when I look at that movie objectively, the 2016, I think it was
Ghostbusters.
Yeah. I thought it was fine. I mean, I thought so
too. I just, it's like,
it's unnecessary, but it's fine. It's not a bad movie. It's just everybody got their, ass in a whatever and I get it. But the problem is that it's unnecessary what they're doing is, well, we can't stand on our own. So we have to ride the coattails of the brand. That's not how you do it. You create original characters that are strong, and the stories are really good, right? And the movies are really well made. If you build it, they will come.
Sure.
If you don't, or if it's a half-ass, it's not, look, people didn't go see Lara Croft because it was a woman. They didn't go see it because they just didn't like the movie. They don't care. I didn't go see it because I don't care about the brand. I don't care about the game. I've never played the game. I don't care about it. So I just think it's important that I don't want Hollywood, even though they probably will, to start, let's have a female James Bond. No, let's not have a female James Bond. Create an original character that you can look at and go, oh, well, that's like the female James. That would be the equivalent. Okay. But don't put her in the same universe working for MI5 or whatever it is and call her Jane Bond. It's pretentious. It's condescending, and you will fail. You may make a little bit more money than you would if it was somebody that wasn't attached to the brand, but that's because it's the brand.
Ocean's
it's the reason
8.
why right. And that didn't do very well.
No, it didn't do well at all.
No.
Again, they were trying to push the whole female thing in the Ocean's, universe. And
I want to see, right. And I'm all for seeing strong female characters. Yeah, I think it's great. It can be sexy. It can be cool.
Well, it's been the history of filmmaking. It's not something we're just inventing today. But like you said, it's the original characters. Like, yeah, exactly. Like a Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street, or Jenny from Friday the 13th Part 2, the Amy Steele character, or Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode, or Ripley, as I said before. I mean, you've got a history of films from original movies, original IPs. Okay, not trying to piggyback off like, oh, we're just going to put our stamp on this and make a female's Ocean's 8 because we want, female go girl power and all this stuff like that. That's when you're going to fail. But
that's what it doesn't feel organic. And the right thing to do is you have to understand that, well, let's do this, but let's create our own original stuff. And if you build it from the ground up and you build a strong foundation with competent women that are good actresses, with with a competent crew and film, and if you build, they will come. Look, a good movie's a good movie. I don't care who's in it. I don't care who's starring in it. I don't care what the story is. If it's a good story, and if it's about women, or it's a main lead, sure, that's great. The problem is when you start riding the coattails, people see through that, and it angers people because they say, well, that's no. James Bond is a guy. He's a white guy. Okay, and that, not that he can't be black, but I'm just saying that that's who he is. Indiana Jones, right? Same sort of thing. When you start messing with the form of the foundation, it people start to see through that, and they start to see, this doesn't feel like you're giving me something that's organic. It feels like you're pushing something onto me. And right or wrong, people don't like to be duped. People don't like to be tricked. People don't like to be marketed in a way where it's very obvious they're being marketed to.
Well, that was my complaint
that's
about
why it's so important to give it's a strong foundation, present a strong character, strong foundation to something, and people will go and see it.
Well, that was my one issue. And before I get into that, Michael Anderson, I do like your idea, bro, where he said, I would support an all-female Magic Mike. I kind of agree with that one. I would support that as well, too. I have no argument there.
Right.
Margot Robbie, absolutely. Taking the reins of that. Yes, sir. I will support that. But it's like what the 2018 Halloween film did. And I know they did this intentionally, again, going into that whole feminism thing. And that here, for 90 minutes of the film, Michael, he's out there slicing and dicing. He's in a zone. He's Stephen Curry hitting threes from all over the place. And he's just killing people, no problem. Then you get to the end of the film. You mean to tell me he's going to become a bumbling moron when he's facing Laurie and the granddaughter and fucking Judy Greer? I mean, he literally turned into a bumbling idiot. Prior to that, this dude is in a zone, killing people left and right. He's like a cat, like, you know, going through houses and shit. And you get to the fucking end of the film, and he can't do shit. Like, come on. And I knew what they were doing there. I thought it would have been more impactful had he killed Judy Greer's character. You know, one of the three women. That would have made it more impactful. But
I still think. Look, for those that are still watching, I got 122, which is good. I am in the middle of still fleshing out my sequel idea for Halloween, even though, again, I don't think they need to make one. I really think the movie should have ended with just Laurie and Michael dying. That's how it should have ended. They should have died. Laurie died sacrificing herself she did that. That sacrifice helped to save her daughter and her granddaughter, which would have been a great angle, and both Laurie and Michael die in the fire, and that's it. You call it a day. Because right now it seems so anticlimactic. It's like, well, yeah, we're going to do a sequel, and now I'm like, okay, all right, knock your socks off, you know. Whatever.
Oh, another good question. Oh, you didn't answer the favorite 80s teen movie.
Oh, my favorite 80s teen movie. Oh,
I just went with Breakfast Club because it's like there's so many.
I gotta say, I really like Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf is good. No, Michael J. Fox. That's good.
Teen Wolf is fun. Wolf is fun. I gotta say, I know it's not the traditional sort of thing, but it's fun. Yeah, I like that. I like the poster too. You know, when he's like this.
Yeah.
You know, when he's, I got that's a VHS. I should have. Oh, did I bring that out? I don't think I did. That's a VHS I should have brought out and put out there. But yeah, definitely I would say it was probably Teen Wolf, probably one that I watched the most. And I guess that could be considered a teen comedy of the 80s, I guess.
Oh, for sure.
It's got a little bit of a sensational spin to it, but it's certainly a teen comedy, you know.
Sure. I mean, I would have said Karate Kid, but like, is that a teen movie? Or I mean, because that was really like, it's a combination of kids.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't classify the Karate Kid as a teen comedy.
Right.
I think teen comedies deal with teenager situations.
Right, like The Breakfast Club. Even though Daniel is a teenager in the Karate Kid, I think it's marketed to that like 10-year-old and younger. Even though yes, you do see, you know, this is based on teenagers in the movie. Right. It's not like The Breakfast Club where you're dealing with, you know, in The Breakfast Club, you're like you said, you're dealing with teenage issues.
Right. That's right.
And do you think, just to kind of piggyback off of that, do you think movies like that would do well today? Like movies like The Breakfast Club, St. Elmo's Fire, that type of genre?
But it's the evolution. right? Like, I mean, what was going on in the 80s or even in the 90s when we were in high school is not what's going on now. I mean, the rise of the internet, even though the internet was around in the late 90s, I didn't have my first email address till I was in college, essentially.
Yep.
So, I mean, it was there, but it's not what it is now. And so social media has changed it, you know, and it's a very different world. So yes, I think a Breakfast Club kind of movie would work, but it would be like you look at the Breakfast Club, and then if you look at the Breakfast Club over here, a modern one, it would be like a futuristic version of that one.
Oh, well, yeah, because you're going to have kids doing this on their phones throughout the movie, you know,
right.
like,
and you're going to utilize, because you have to appeal to that demographic of today.
right.
And that's understandable. So, but the social issues of being a teenager never change, you know, liking a girl, liking a guy, getting turned down, wanting to date, you know, the sexual side of things, the puberty,
Sure.
the growing, the dances, the learning, that will always be there, but it evolves, you know, instead of like when we were kids, you know, if we liked a girl and we wanted to ask her for a phone number, we had to ask her for a phone. She wrote it down, and it was her home phone number, her landline, and we'd have to call, and then we'd have to get past her mom or dad, you know, hi, is Julie there? You know, whatever it is, right? Well, now it's even a scarier, more world. I can only imagine being a parent now. They bypass all that. Now I mean, you're not asking for phone numbers anymore. You're not asking for
you're
Facebook
DMing each
profiles.
other on Facebook or Instagram.
Or not even that. I think it's moved away. I don't even think kids give a crap about Facebook anymore. I think I mean, like I asked my buddy Bruce, who has a 17-year-old son and a 15-year-old son, and he's like, "Oh yeah, dude, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about, you know, Facebook. No, it's gone. Like now, like it evolves to Snapchat, or then it'll go on to something else, FaceTime, or to go on like
TikTok, right, or something like that.
I'd never even heard of that. To keep up with all these different apps and ways to communicate, that's what it is. You don't ask a girl for her phone number anymore. You ask her for her TikTok or what. I don't know.
It's so bad, man. It's like, like
bypass the parents, you know. So it can be really cool for the kid, but really kind of scary for the rest. So yeah, a Breakfast Club could work today, but it would just be an evolution of that. It would be a shell of what you could see the foundation in the new movie, the chemistry between the people, and I kind of like him, and does she like me? And you could have the nerdy girl, you could have the jock, because they still exist. The archetypes of all the different kind of people that are in high school still exist today, with the cliques and the different, the nerds hanging out with each other and the cool people hanging out with each other and the mean girls hanging out. That still exists today. So, but it's just the evolution of that. So, yeah.
God, you had me remembering, man. I remember the girl that I've talked about a couple of times on here, my junior high and high school sweetheart, Allie. Man, I remember the first time I called her. Oh my God, my heart rate was going a billion miles an hour. Like that's the thing. I think what kids don't get today, what we got to experience was, like that first time you're calling a girl that you like, and you want to set something up, you want to ask her out. And like you're talking about, her dad's answering their phone. And I'm like, yeah, is Allie there? You're like,
right.
And
right.
who is this? This is Tony. Like, yeah, I'm cool. Don't worry, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I show up in the driveway on my skateboard and shit. And he's like, you ain't going out with my daughter.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
But and you don't get that. Like kids today don't get to experience that because you can like you said, you can bypass that through DMing each other on Instagram, or I don't do Snapchat. I don't have Facebook. Instagram is my only social media. And then this obviously here with YouTube. But yeah, like I, as a parent today, dude, I'm so glad I'm not a parent, because I can't even imagine, like, the shit that kids can get away with, that back when we were teenagers, man, you had to call a girl. I mean, there was no getting around, the middleman or anything.
That's
you had to go through mom and dad to get to the daughter. And
that's exactly right.
If mom or dad 100%. Didn't approve you were done. Or you were sneaking out,
Yeah, that's it. Yep, that's it.
Couple more questions.
Well, yeah, I think that just about does it for us. We've been rolling on here for 2 hours now, so we should probably wrap this up. We'll take one more question that Tony and I will both answer, and then we'll call it a night. And I'll let Tony pick one.
Sure. I'm just kind of scrolling up here to make sure we didn't miss anyone. I think we got everybody. Just making sure we don't miss you guys. I'll answer this one. The Film Addict. By the way, if you guys don't follow the Film Addict, you should follow him on Instagram. He does some cool shit, some cool Halloween stuff. We follow each other on Instagram. And so definitely, if you guys in the chat room are there tonight, if you're big into Halloween, he does other stuff beyond Halloween as well too, but you should definitely check him out. And the stuff he's doing on Instagram is pretty cool. Halloween 4 or 5. Jesus, man, it's like the hardest. Halloween 4 or Jaws 4. I'm sorry, Halloween 4, Halloween 5 or Jaws 4.
Halloween 5 or Jaws 4? Like what in what context?
Which one do I like better? Halloween 5 or Jaws 4? Depends on how stoned I am. I'm gonna have to answer it like that. If I'm super high, I'll watch Halloween 5. If I'm not, then I might watch Jaws 4. But they're both unfortunately, because I love Danielle Harris's character of Jamie Lloyd. Unfortunately, they did not do her character justice in Halloween 5. And I'm sure me and Dave will sit aside, we'll talk about the sequels one night. We haven't done that yet, but we're only 4 episodes in. So I'm sure we'll go more in depth on that. But in seriousness, I'd probably, just because it's Michael Myers and Danielle Harris, I would have to go with Halloween 5. What about you?
I would probably have to go Jaws 4 or Halloween 5. I mean, they're both just shitty, horrible movies. And
please, Dave, tell me how you feel.
Yeah, and I would say that I might pick Halloween 5, but that's not because I think it's a better movie.
Right.
But it might have a slight edge in more redeeming qualities.
Sure.
So in the sense that Donald Pleasance, in the sense that, you get a fall sort of atmosphere.
Right.
Alan Howarth's score is nice.
Right.
Like there's little things that you could watch and appreciate in an otherwise fucking shit show.
Danielle Harris' performance is not bad for a kid.
No, it's fine. It's fine. The laundry chute scene, Michael looks horrible, but it's that thing where when I think of Jaws 4, the opening I actually quite like in Jaws 4, where Sean gets he goes out onto the water and he gets killed while the Christmas carolers are off in the distance.
Yeah.
That contrast is beautiful. He's being torn apart, and you hear like whatever.
Right. The opening of Jaws 4 I thought was great, but
it's great.
It fell apart fast.
Fell apart very fast. And then, of course, the whole idea of it being personal and having him go to the Bahamas and it taking place in the Bahamas, and even though great white sharks, I don't even think go down that.
No,
which is the whole idea because it's supposed to be, it's personal, so he makes an exception. It's just terrible. But
we're defining a shark is taking things personally and it's going to track down this family.
Right. Like if this is Halloween 5, this is Jaws 4. Like it's very marginal. Scale. It's very marginal, but I might choose Halloween 5 because I can at least appreciate, that, and that's 2 more than what I can appreciate in Jaws: The Revenge. So, that's how I would define it. But it doesn't mean that Dave thinks Halloween 5 is so much better than. No, I don't. I think it's I think they're both equally as disastrous.
All right, grab your last question there, Dave. What do you got?
No, that was it. That was it.
I thought you had one.
No, I didn't. No, that was it. It was just one last one here.
Oh, okay.
So that is going to do it for us. I thank everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And if you guys want to go and watch the beginning of the episode after it's up and processed, feel free to do that. Tony and I go into a rant about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So if you want to know what that's all about, you can check that out. But I appreciate everybody tuning in, of course, and contributing to the chat, the lively chat. I think you guys are awesome. And of course, Christmas is soon upon us. So Tony and I might have a Christmassy episode coming up soon. Maybe where we talk about our favorite Christmas movies or something Christmas or whatever. This is the kind of thing where we like to have a a central topic or a theme, but we also want to leave room for natural
improv, like
exactly.
Rudolph.
Yeah. We want things to develop organically, right? We don't want to, but we definitely want to have a theme to the overall episode. And that's what this episode was. Movie posters that we talked about, but certainly we talked about a lot of other shit as well. So yeah, Tony, your link is in the description for Instagram if you want to follow Tony Michael on Instagram.
Yeah, it's just simply at Tony Michael Photo. Easy peasy.
Awesome. And of course, all my links are down there as well. So yeah, guys, have a great week, and we will talk to you next week.
Later.
All right. Take care, guys. Cheers.